Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Story number 1. Sniper, written by Radius 55. The sniper lay on a small rise overlooking the town. He could see the landing strip, still smoking from the craft so recently touched down. He saw the crowd of onlookers, fearful of the enemy that had dealt so harshly with the smallest hint of resistance. And he saw his target, surrounded by its escorts and their interlocking shields at just a hair over 900 meters. With the representative of the group that had killed so many of his friends and family magnified in his scope, the human should have felt rage. By any standards, it was insane not to. The sniper felt nothing. Just note the group was nearing their initiation point and adjusting the aim of his modified Anzio 20mm rifle. It was hard to believe first contact had only been 3 months ago. This group had arrived on Earth in a pair of ships and proceeded to fire without warning. Military facilities, rocket launch facilities, and every national capital from DC to Harare, Zimbabwe were hammered with a combination of kinetic penetrators and antimatter bombs. With every nation's political leadership destroyed and military decimated, Earth had no choice but to surrender. As a part of the terms agreed to by the new governing council, heavy metal extraction was prioritized, and several industries were updated by the invaders to produce technology useful to the invaders. Resistance was common in the first weeks. The Arabs in the Middle East were the first to receive the reward for their actions when the members of ISIS attacked the rare earth extraction operations in Afghanistan. They found, unlike the Westerners that they were so used to fighting, these aliens had no qualms about destroying entire towns to kill individual combatants. Thousands of militants were killed, and tens of times that, and civilians lost their lives. A few fighters made it into the view of aliens, saw their weapons have no apparent effect against the shields of the enemy warriors before they were slaughtered in mass. The sniper knew what had happened in Afghanistan. He also knew similar things had happened when other attacks were carried out all around the world. While watching the alien supervisor continue towards the new production facility, he should have felt fear in the retribution the attack would bring. Instead, the sniper double-checked the wind and made a minute adjustment on his scope. As the group passed by a parked vehicle, an explosion rocked the afternoon. With the signal, humans began to open fire with small arms from whatever cover they could find. Their weapons had no more effect against the enemy shields than so many spitballs, and the guards formed up in front of their leader, providing a stronger barrier against the fire. Return shots with energy normally reserved for human anti-tank weapons sent dust, debris, and bodies flying. In a few seconds, a third of the attackers and several dozen bystanders were dead. Not one of the aliens was even injured. A person should have been disgusted or filled with self-loathing. The sniper knew most of the people dying down there, neighbors, friends, comrades, and even family were being slaughtered while he was safe almost a kilometer away. Instead, he felt only recoil as he pulled the trigger. The 20mm tungsten penetrator discarded its sabot as it left the barrel, traveling at 957 meters in under a second. As it approached its target, a compact capacitor fed power into a shaped magnetic field generator. The distortion it produced was barely sufficient to allow the penetrator to pass through the barrier. Had a single guard been close enough to reinforce it with their own shield, it never would have worked. As it was, the barrier had just enough energy to punch through into the alien's chest and explode out the other side. The sniper felt nothing as he observed the creature fall. No pride, or satisfaction, or contempt. He merely noted that the new penetrator had worked, and the supervisor would be unlikely to survive with a large portion of his upper body splattered on the pavement. Then he began crawling back towards the drainage ditch that led away from the hide. Later, there would be time for congratulations. Later, there would be time for tears. Later, there would be time to plan the next attack. End of story. Story number 2. Of Two Minds, written by Algae Father Anthracite. He sat in a room, surrounded by nothing but white. His head was held in a cage-like rack, leaving just his head immobile. There were various subtle buzzes, clicks, and whirs. After a while, the sound stopped and a previously unseen door unsealed and let in a tech who disconnected the rack/cage thing, and the man could move his head again. "I can appreciate that you wouldn't believe me at first, but this should be pretty conclusive, right?" the man asked. An unseen intercom buzzed to life, and the voice said, "Yes, sir. This will confirm your allegations. Please remain seated. The technician will help you exit the scanner." In another room, a group of xenobiologists were looking at the holographic display. On it was slowly rotating rendering of the man's brain, or at least 80% of the man's brain. In the area where his frontal lobe should have been, there was a singular lobe and an empty space. They stared aghast at the sight and the horrific implications. The man truly was missing part of his brain. He had been getting scanned in customs when a foreign object had been detected in his head. After asking him about the object, he told the officer that he'd suffered a medical condition that required brain surgery, and the object was the plate that covered the hole in his skull. He had said he had an aneurysm, a condition in his species where a blood vessel would bulge and deform or burst altogether, causing cognitive impairment. He said he's had a required removal of damaged brain cells. Such an obvious lie led to the man being detained. Once peace officers arrived to deal with the station, the man was detained and taken to the hospital nearest to the space station. After explaining for a third time to the Xena specialist doctor about its condition, the doctor had to confer with some specialists. It was decided that a scan would either confirm or debunk the story. Most of the specialists were eager to see if it was true. When the scan showed a nearly removed chunk of tissue in his brain, most of the doctors and specialists stood, expressing various physical signs of disbelief, ranging from slack features to pulsing chromatophores to molting a few feathers. One unfortunate individual had to run to find a waste receptacle so that she could regurgitate. The subject of the scan, a relatively new species, galactically, was a human. One that was, according to all evidence, missing a part of his brain. Most of the viewers were tempted to ask for an additional scan, but the failure rate for scanners was practically non-existent. There was no way known to science to cause a void to appear on a scanner readout. The doctors began to look at each other. Someone, after a few moments, said, "We should interview him, shouldn't we? I mean, there's so much to learn. How can he operate like that? I mean, it makes no sense. He should be drooling on the floor." The man sat in his room, casually waiting for the medical clearance, unaware that just through the doorway several creatures were calling into question some deeply held moral convictions, religious beliefs, and years of education, all due to his incomplete brain. The man sat at a table, explaining in as much detail as he could remember. He was an electronics technician by trade, and not well suited to describe the issues and side effects of the condition to medical professionals. But he did his best to describe some everyday issues he had. A drop in impulse control, constant headaches, numerous medications, but all in all, it felt relatively good. "It's better than being dead, by a long shot," he replied with a smile. He gave them contact information for his neurologist and asked for a certificate to show to the officers so they would not have to go through the whole ordeal again. As he was being led out the room, he said, "Thanks for the letter to show customs. This'll save some time and annoyance when I reboard the ship home. Oh, hey, you guys should ask my doctor about something called alien hand syndrome. Apparently, if you damage or break the bridge between the two halves of your brain, they start to act independently of each other, each half controlling one side of the body. They will even respond to the same questions with different actions, like choosing two different objects when asked to choose between several objects on the table. In bad cases, the offhand tries to hurt or kill the entire body. I read about it when I was learning about my condition." The man walked off, leaving shocked, even more horrified group of xenobiologists behind. End of story. I just want to thank the T5 patrons and channel members. Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Estrella the Dreamer, Try Again 95, Fudic Yol, Meridian 117, Alithia, Jordan Bucksborn, Angry Marine, Albarden Guster, and Barkey. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.